Hello, once again, this is Eric with Master Tool Repair. Today we have a K17, K18 ROLAIR valve rebuild kit and instructions how to do so. Here on the table we have the various parts come with the K17 valve kit. We have our 4 reed valves, which are all identical. We have our cylinder gasket, inner valve plate gasket, and our top head gasket, along with the after cooler gasket as well. You need some basic tools to do this, nothing too extraordinary, but you'll need a rubber mallet to remove the head and valve plate, and a chisel here just to remove the residue of the old gaskets off the valve plate and the head. Simply a socket with a 1/2 inch size socket, this is the size of the head bolts, and of course a torque wrench when we're all done to torque the head bolts down, along with some Vaseline type grease or tool grease. This coats the gaskets and the valves to keep them in place, so only to keep these in place. That does certainly help. Alright, so we have a K17 pump right here, a ROLAIR single stage pump. K17 and K18 are nearly identical. K18 is just larger in scale. The instructions and the parts will be identical, the same. K18 is just a bit larger in scale. Alright, so we already have the aftercooler removed off of the head. Went ahead and just took the liberty of taking that off to save time. And you have a gasket here as well, which we'll install at the end of the instruction. Alright, our 1/2 inch head bolts, 6 of them already taken loose. We're going to just take the head off. Of course, you can see our head gasket on the bottom there. We'll end up removing that. And let's go set that to the side. Alright, we have a 2-piece valve plate. We have the valves sandwiched in between the 2 valve plates. So we're going to take this off of the cylinder. Take it up here on our bench. Try to keep it in the same situation here, same configuration as possible, so try to remove it from the pump onto the bench just like you removed it, and just keep it in one place if you can. Alright, now of course this is a 2-piece valve plate, so once we have them apart, this gasket is obviously removed, it's not here any longer, so we'll go ahead and typically first off install the cylinder gasket on top of the cylinder, start things off with. You see all the residue here from the old gasket. This is part of the old gasket here, and it's all chipped, and we want to make sure we remove every single bit of gasket from the cylinder and the valve plate. Got to make sure it's all completely off. So just kind of a chisel, you kind of remove a lot of it, the larger chunks. Take some Scotch-Brite after that and to remove it and polish it up so it's nice and clean, as you see here. So make sure you do remove all the gasket material and set your cylinder gasket right on top. And of course you can coat it with some of the tool grease, coat the sides of it just to keep it in place. That's a good idea. Now installing the valves, you'll notice here in the bottom valve plate, which is installed right on the cylinder, the reed valves here, we're going to just remove those. They come out very easily. They're just free floating valves, so they come out, essentially fall out of the valve plate. Of course you notice this side is flat. Here we have bevels. Alright, so first the intake valves, we're going to install right on the bevel. So we're going to coat the valves a little bit with some grease, or Vaseline, just to keep them in place. We're going to install it right into the valley here, the valve plate or the bevel. So you make sure it does not dislodge. If it does dislodge while you're installing the valve plates to the head, that's a big problem, and the valves will, obviously they could damage them, or the valve plates or the gaskets, so make sure they stay put, very important. We're going to take our second valve here and do the same. Alright, coat it just a little bit and install it to the bevel. Lay it right down. Alright, there we are. Okay, now we have, of course, our inner valve plate gasket. This, you'll see the 4 cutouts for the valves. Again, we'll coat this as well, typically with some grease on the edges. Make sure to keep it in place. Lay it right down on top, like so. A second valve plate. You'll notice, of course, on one side it has the bevels as well, and it's flat on this side. Now the valves and the bevels here will install on the opposite side of the valves on the first valve plate. So we'll end up installing just like this. You'll flip it over, and you can tell because this side's darker and it matches this side of the valve plate, which is darker, which is your exhaust. So easy kind of point of reference there. Alright, so we're going to take our valves just like we did for the intake and coat them a little bit. Alright, with some grease. Alright, lay it in. beveled in. And our fourth valve. Install. Okay. Alright, lay it in. At this point, we're going to flip the second valve plate, whoops, on top of the first valve plate. Alright, so we're going to sandwich in between, make sure the valves are in place. And of course, we're just going to flip it around, like so. Alright, now take this as one piece. We're going to lay it on top of the cylinder gasket. Again, a good point of reference, the darker side of the valve plate is exhaust, so that will go towards the aftercooler. Alright, everything's lined up. So we're going to take our head gasket, of course, coat it a little bit, just to keep it in place. Alright, as you'll see the rib running through it, in between the intake and exhaust side. That's how you can tell it's head gasket. It will have that rib in between. And lastly, our head. And again, just for the sake of the video, I haven't removed the head gasket, but obviously remove the head gasket and all the residue. Make sure it's nice and polished up here where it meets the valve plate. Alright, set it right on top. Again, our aftercooler on this side to our exhaust. Simply lay it down. And again, what you'll do is torque the head bolts down 243 inch-pounds. So we would simply take our 1/2 inch socket here on the torque wrench, and again, 243 inch-pounds or 20 foot-pounds, just depending on see how your torque wrench measures the torque, inch-pounds or foot-pounds. So we're going to start with the inside bolts and go outwards in an X pattern. So we're going to tighten the inside bolt first. And what we'll do is we'll go again outwards and go across to the inside bolt, and then we're going to go in an X pattern outwards. So yeah, tighten this up in an X pattern just like that. You want to make sure you tighten them up evenly. And of course, once we do that, last but not least, we do have our aftercooler gasket here, which again, easy way is just to coat it with some grease. Install it right here once it's obviously all polished up and looks good. And of course, just install the aftercooler right onto it, tighten up the bolts, and you're done. And essentially that's it. That's install the K17 and K18 valve kit. If you do have any other questions, you can always call in and talk to a Master Tool sales rep, or go to mastertoolrepair.com for more information. Thank you very much.